Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. Let me start by saying, if you're enjoying our videos, by all means, please subscribe. The other thing is, when you do subscribe, please click on the little bell, which is the notification bell, which means you'll be notified audibly when our next video comes out. Okay, let's get started. About 2 videos ago, that's before the 74-inch shovelhead motor with the pretty sound, I relined a set of brake shoes for my Knucklehead. And I said, on the next video, we'll install those shoes. Well, then we got busy, and then I did a bunch of other things, and now I finally get to install the shoes on my Knucklehead. So, let's get started. These are the shoes that I relined, and I'm very pleased with them. I had some fresh lining in my parts room, and I had an old pair of brake shoes, and so I did them up. Today I went out to my belt sander and I chamfered the ends of the lining here so you don't catch a bunch of junk in there and all that sort of fun stuff. I also cleaned this brake up so that I could show it. I removed the rear wheel and I took the brake apart, cleaned it, put it back together again. The reason I did that was so it would be more visible for the video, trying to make it so you can see it. So, I pulled the wheel off, which is what you have to do on these bikes, and then you can remove the brake drum. And so I took the chain off of it, and now I'm going to remove the brake drum, which I've already washed, inside and out, and I scuffed the inside with a little bit of rough sandpaper. And so it's all ready to use. I'm not particularly pleased with that brake drum because it's been chromed not only on the outside but on the inside. So eventually I'll be replacing that drum, and I want to try some experiments with brake lining that I haven't been able to try yet. We'll do that eventually. Now the old lining that's in here, although it looks good, it's been pretty severely overheated. I don't know who would have made that happen. And one end of the lining is cracked. So I pulled all this apart, cleaned it, and put it back together again so I could show a proper assembly. Mike, have you shown the whole assembly here? Okay. Normally there is a cotter pin right here, and this washer which holds the whole apparatus in there. And here is the spring and the brake shoes. And there they are off. Honestly, it is in fact that simple. Not any harder than that. So in putting it back together, and everybody knows I love white lithium grease, we're going to put some white lithium grease here on the edges of these shoes, where they're going to rub. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some grease right down here. Not a lot of it, just enough to make things slide a little bit. Again, I cleaned all this up. It's always dirty when you get in there. Don't be surprised if you get into your into your brakes and you go, my God, that's dirty. Well, it's just brake lining and debris and the usual things that happen in there. I mean, the brakes are constantly shaving the lining off, and that's what you end up with. Now, these shoes are identical. The front shoe and the rear shoe and all that's pretty much the same. So we're going to put some of this white lithium grease on this post here. And realizing that it's going to go on here like this, we'll even put some inside here where it's going to rub in there. That'd be kind of nice, huh? And let's put some here on the bottom where it's going to rub on this actuator here. You like that? It's an actuator, I think. All right? And put some there and there. Anywhere it's going to rub, you want to put a little grease. So, this is us doing that. Yeah. And there it is there. Let's get that axle out of the way. You know, I really, I'm not a big nut on chrome, but I gotta say, when all this stuff in here is chromed up, it really is pretty. And I do honestly love it. But, you know, the inside of the brake drum, not so much. Not so much. So we're going to take this shoe off, this spring off of the shoes here, and we're going to grease up the end of that spring. So that should be pretty easy. Let's get these old shoes out of the way. Like I said, they weren't worn out, but man, have they been heated up, and they've been through some pretty wild times. Don't know who put them through any wild times. Okay. Could have been me. Okay. So there we have the brake shoes assembled as an assembly. So I'll put my arm through the frame here so I can get a hold of this. And we're gonna put those just like that. And those brake shoes are installed. Not bad, huh? Yeah, we'll put some of this white lithium inside this. I guess we could call this a keeper. It's a thing, a shape. That's going to hold this on here. I'm sure if I looked it up in the book, I'd find the name for it. There it is. And of course, I have a cotter pin to go through there. And I know everybody wants to use a fancy pair of cutters for this, but my fingers do pretty well. I should have brought a pair of channel locks out for this, but I didn't. There, that should do it. All right, brake shoes installed. And now we can put the brake drum back on. And what I do once the brake drum is back on is I will put the wheel on, and then I will adjust the rear brake. I have, at this point, I have disconnected the rear brake link here. And you can see how this thing works. Pretty neat. I'm happy with it. Let me put the brake drum in place. Now all we need to do is put the wheel on, put the chain on, hook up that brake link, and we'll adjust it so that when the brake pedal is actuated, it works. So that's it. There really isn't much more to it. We have now relined those brake shoes and installed them on the brake. At some point when we have a frame that we're building a bike from, we will replace the bushings in the frame for the cross shaft, for the brake rod, and all that sort of thing. But for now, all we're doing is rebuilding this brake, and we just did. It's finished. So let me get the wheel on and go for a ride, and hopefully I'll see you out on the road.